Well, a striking moment from Brussels has gone viral after Sweden's climate minister Romina arrived at a European Union environment meeting with a 3-month-old baby, turning a high-level policy discussion into a global conversation on parenting and public life. In fact, Romina, one of Europe's youngest cabinet ministers, brought her son Adam to EU climate talks in Luxembourg while discussions were underway on key issues such as emission standards and electric vehicle targets. The minister said her decision was intentional, aimed at showing that motherhood and public office do not have to be mutually exclusive.
There has been a sharp increase in electrical vehicle sales. Good timing, Adam. This shift in car sales can also be attributed to our earlier efforts to set predictable and ambitious.
I'm being joined by K. Vasuki, who's a secretary to Kerala Governor, and I'm also being joined by Samya Kapoor, who's my colleague at News9. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining me. It's great to see you both. Let's just start with you, Ms. Vasuki. I mean, look at that video. You have a young minister, a young mother, a new mother, bringing her baby in, and while she's addressing that parliament, the baby starts crying, so you have her handle that baby, try to speak, get back to the baby, try to speak. Does that ring bells?
It does. I mean, of course, I didn't have to bring a 3-month-old baby to work because I was in a 6 months maternity leave. But still, I remember juggling feeding the baby and coming to office, finding those every 3-4 hours to ensure that the feeding is also done while being present myself in the office. Of course, it rings a bell, and it feels very, very heartening. And the way she carries herself, especially, that very casual remark saying that good timing, Adam. That is very sweet, and also the fact that there is so much acceptance right now to see a baby at work. I think it's very refreshing. It's very inspiring. I think we have come a long way, but we also have a long way to go.
Right. Samya, you are holidaying with your family. You still took time out for joining me. Thank you so much. This is not the first time, Samya, that we are seeing visuals such as this. We've had similar instances in New Zealand as well. Who can forget Jacinda at the United Nations? You've had Canada's Karina Gold in Parliament as well. Australia's Larissa Walters in the Senate. All of them made statements bringing their babies. And kudos to them for doing that. But how do you see reality vis-a-vis the messaging that they're doing? It could be messaging that they're doing, which is also important. It could be their reality as well. I can see your kid, Samya.
You can say hi.
Hi, good to see you. All right, Samya. So, no, that's fine. How do you see the reality of what's around you vis-a-vis these images that you see?
Sneha, firstly, kudos to you for picking this subject, because the subject is not talked about very often. And both you and I know that we are trying to do this balancing act as young working mothers. It's a delicate tightrope that we are trying to walk, especially in this industry that's very demanding. It is at no point easy to be able to have a career alongside motherhood. Anybody who has any rosy notions about it, well, I have news for you. Every single day, every age and phase of childhood requires a different mother altogether, and it is demanding. There is an issue as far as India is concerned, which I want to address over here. Glad you're doing this show, Sneha. I just feel that the organizations are not very equipped, or if I can say not very maternal friendly in that sense. How many of these creches do we have in organizations? How many of these lactation rooms do we have in these organizations? I have seen young mothers hiding inside washrooms to be able to pump. And when it comes to just ensuring that women are accepted not only about the number of hours and the presence that they are making in a given organization, but as opposed to that, the performance is where they are evaluated. Because yes, kids are going to fall sick. Yes, kids are going to be requiring their parents to come for their parents teacher meeting or admissions. They may be having a high grade fever throughout the night, but the women next day morning, the mother still shows up. There are several battles that she has to, wage, and many times we don't want to talk about it because we want to be seen as an equal. Why is being a mother often seen as a liability of sorts? If there is a chart where there has to be layoffs, a young mother is going to be seen as a liability because, oh, she's got kids, her kids are going to fall sick, she's going to be requiring to go to the school, etc. So let's do away with her. I just feel that over 70% of women in Indian workforce have been compelled to leave their job once they come back from maternity. Not because of anything else, because yes, childcare is an issue in India. Not everybody can afford it. And that's where a woman will have to compromise when it comes to her career.
Right.
And when it comes to emotional onslaught, that's immense. We all know about postpartum, it's real, but over and beyond that, it's your self worth. It's the identity that you have built your career with, and then you compromise it because you've been compelled to choose between either a motherhood or being a working mother. Why can't both of them work in tandem? Like, why is mothers being seen as a dinosaur in a work setup?
Right.
While we're talking about women in the 21st century, this mindset doesn't change.
Vasuki, if you could come in at this point to what Samya is saying, there's cost cutting happening everywhere. Purses get tightened. Organization goes through, drum roll when the economy goes low and so on and so forth. So many factors that get into play. Do you really see yourself as somebody who's been able to balance motherhood? You're a mother to two as well. To balance motherhood and work, or in between, have you been left drained as well? How has it been for you?
So largely, I've been able to balance my work and motherhood. But yes, I mean, there were many times, and I feel overwhelmed. There are many times that I'm not doing justice, probably less to my work and more to my children. And because I mean, we have a very hectic lifestyle right now. I mean, the entire world is always expecting all of us to keep running. But I always ask, like, where are we running to? What are we running for? I mean, it is ultimately to be happy. And happiness comes with this exact balancing, right? I mean, of course, there is a side of you, which is a personal side where, you're trying to be having a loving family and, you're trying to meet your loving and belonging needs. At the same time, every woman also has a dream. She has something to contribute to the world at large. We have very, very unique perspectives and very unique takes in the world. Especially, I always talk about how women make better leaders because, the EQ of a woman is higher, the self-awareness, the self-regulation, the moral sensitivity, the kindness, and even the listening skills and understanding and empathy. These are all factors that are very much vital for leadership. So a woman as a leader has a lot to contribute to the world too, not just a family, but she has a lot to contribute to the world too. And unless both these sides of any individual, be it a woman or a man, where we also have something great at the personal side and also something great going on at the public or the professional side. That is the kind of holistic what to say a development or holistic lifestyle that will enable us to bring out our full potential, as Maslow the psychologist says. So but having said that, in my particular case, one thing I would really love to mention is that it is very fortunate that I've had a very supporting family, whether it is my mother who stayed with me, again a woman, but more to speak, it is my husband because he's a hardcore feminist himself. And yes, ladies, there are men like this too. I mean, he's a hardcore feminist, and he always loves to see me going forward, and he's ready to do anything to see me going forward. And he's always believed that I need to realize my potential as a leader. So I think the change in the mentality of men is very, very important when it comes to this balancing act between work and family. And let me remind, family is not just a woman's, portfolio or whatever. It is equally that of a man's, and a man can do just as much as any woman can do.
I completely agree on that front, and I think all three of us here um, would vouch for that as well. Samya, I just wanted to ask you something. You know, when you carry your baby for sessions such as this, um, one is, of course, wow, she's carrying her baby, and glad that she's carrying her baby. She's at the official space. But a baby as small as that, when your hormones are all over the place as a young mother, it's beyond all understanding and logic. And even a small little cry can get all your attention. So it's both ways. It can be a great relief, and it can be a huge challenge to juggle with work. I don't know. How do you see this?
Yeah, it's a challenge all along. It's a challenge all along. I have young kids, 4-year-old and 2-year-old right now. I met parents who have older kids, like they're teenagers. It's still a challenge for them. But yes, I do agree that it is a sensitive space right now. The child is too young. If you're talking about whether it can be a hazard for them, whether it's appropriate, it's entirely upon the mother to each their own. If the mother knows how to handle the child at that given point in time, she'll be able to soothe the child, then kudos to her. She'll be able to manage that even in a workspace. But what I would want to draw your attention over here is like, yes, we are fortunate that we have a very supportive families, especially very supportive husband, but not everybody is blessed with something like that. But I also feel it's important to have supportive bosses. And when it comes to changing the mentality, it also requires for bosses to change their mentality. In my personal experience, if I can tell you, Sneha, well, I have had female bosses in the past who've asked me questions, and it's actually uh, quite crazy that they're asking questions like, why should women be caregivers in the family if my child has 102 fever and I can't make it to work? Why can't men be caregivers in the family? And then that why would women expect pay parity if they are going to create their own glass ceiling by the virtue of being caregivers in the family? Or for that matter, when I was about to expect my second child, I was asked that, did you really want a second child? Today's day and age, people go ahead with just one child. Now, this is an area not for anybody else to decide or talk about in a workspace or a corporate setup. It's only for the family and the wife, husband. Why are women subjected to these uncomfortable questions to try to make it look like that, you're jeopardizing your work, your career if you're going for a second child, you're trying to extract 2 maternity leaves out of one organization. And as opposed to that, I have really seen bosses who are men who have been way more supportive. I mean, it's maybe an anomaly, but I would just want to say, as far as change of mentality is concerned, it shouldn't only be at the home front, it's also required at the work front.
Right. Right. I think it is a gender issue, but it's not only a gender issue as well. I think leaders need to evolve, leaders need to understand, and leaders have to be seen beyond genders as well. Vasuki, at that point come in for somebody who is a leader in her own space. How does it work in a government setup? Is it as high pressure as it seems to be in the private sector? Because, one of the things many mothers often think is, if I didn't have a baby, maybe I would have been there. And it's not a very fair thing to be really thinking. But is that a thought that often comes across? Have you seen people having those thoughts as well, conversations as well? Are these real conversations?
I think as far as my colleagues from the government is concerned, because they're all basically in leaders in their own sense. So in a way, they ensure that I think they are mentally prepared, and probably already they have a supportive system. I don't know, but most of the time, they ensure that the balancing happens. But yes, as you rightly said, sometimes some women always take a back step, saying that okay, I have a baby, I can't do this right now. And but what I have seen is that in government, at least, you have very set maternity policies, and We have childcare leave, which we are able to avail. We have a 2-year childcare leave. So all this was brought as a women-friendly policy. But unfortunately, I don't think the private sector has evolved to that level, is what I understand, especially in India. So when I talk to my colleagues from the private sector and my cousins and my friends, and even when I go for talks in private companies, I would like to say that there's a statistics which says that in the private sector, at the entry level, women are like 50%. At the entry level, women are as many number as men. But as they climb up, to the higher positions, like leadership positions or management positions or CEO positions, the percentage comes down to 9 to 10%.
Right.
So there is that's a huge difference. And one of the main reasons is that, always a woman takes a backseat saying that, okay, now I've got kids and both of us are working. And when both a man and a woman is working, it is always the woman who has to give up a career for the sake of the family. This is a reality that we are facing in today's world. It's never the man who gives up his career for the sake of the family. It's always a woman who gives up a career for the sake of the family. It's always a woman who gives up on her promotions, especially in the private sector, for the sake of the family. So, and sometimes, when I ask the men in leadership positions, sometimes I say that, why do you do this? So they happen to say that, it's just that we don't want to trouble them. So I always say that, that is a kind of a benevolent sexism. So you don't want to trouble a woman because, she has to manage family and work. So
Right.
here the point I'm trying to say is that that's where, again, we've been, spending an entire
Right.
generation telling women to, go ahead, go
Right.
ahead. But then we have to now teach men that support such women and, take equal share, come back to the kitchen, come back to the house,
Right.
you have to, just like we take
Absolutely.
the professional space, men has to
Absolutely.
take the domestic space.
Right, we're completely out of time. Great conversations. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences, Samya Kapoor as well as K. Vasuki. Thank you so much. Thank you.